Radio Show with your host, Lonnie Clark. We stand together and accept that we now live in a world transformed by Fukushima. Monday, Wednesday, and Friday from 8 a.m. to 9 a.m. Pacific Standard Time here on UCY.TV Radio. We relentlessly engage every ear that listens. We expose and confront the complete lack of accountability for the nuclear industry. Consider social engineering programs who view our bodies, minds, and souls as assets on a balance sheet. We discuss vital current issues, interview activists, and engage our audience in an effort to allow all voices to be heard. The Age of Fission radio show creates a venue that all will choose. We encourage our listeners to reclaim their power and their courage to take action and save our planet from the ravages of greed and indifference. Our actions matter. Every voice matters. We remind our listeners that happiness is resistance. Love is greater than fear. Good morning, UCY.TV radio listeners. This is Lonnie Clark with the Age of Fission radio show. It's 8 o'clock in the morning here, August 31st, 2017, and the blue skies have returned to Eugene. I think the fires haven't stopped, but the wind's going in the opposite direction. So thank you for joining us. I actually do not have a guest today. I had originally planned to have a pre-recorded interview with Patty Amino. And I sent it to her as for her to review to make sure it was what she wanted to hear, that it was okay. And she asked me, I totally did not notice, she asked me to take the word Trump out of the audio because we were having a talk. And she's like, look, I don't want to talk about him. And you know me, just sort of slipped out, kind of like the cussing. At least thank you for our affiliates, KEPW.org, who, because they're an FM radio station, I really have to watch my language, which I do. I have been doing for at least a week now. I don't think I've made very many slips. But the T word did come out a couple times. And I was editing it and had a dental emergency and ended up having to go to the dentist yesterday. And so I'm only 3/4 of the way through. I am going to play it on Monday, and I think that's kind of a good thing because it's a political conversation, and it's Labor Day, it's a holiday, so I think that's a good time for us to talk about what it really means to be an American, and that's kind of the point of our discussion. But today there is a lot going on in the world of contamination. Let's just put it to you that way. That's sort of where we live, isn't it? We just live in a world of contamination right now. It's very sad, but this is what we got when, right now, I found an article, in fact, this morning that says it's an opinion piece. It was in the main news that the government needs to release us from having these very, very heavy obligations to run nuclear and coal plants. Like, really? We need to let them go? That sounds like government should ease rules on operating power plants. And this is from the Independent Herald, dated August 30th, 2017. Just as interestingly enough, in Texas, what happened a few years ago when they had that big plant explosion, they passed a rule that didn't say we're going to have to tighten up regulations and make sure everybody's safe and do things a little bit differently. What they changed was that now chemical plants in Texas do not have to tell you what's in their plants. They can give you a general idea, but it's up to them. That's called deregulating, and I'm sure many of you have been watching the coverage this morning of the explosion, or listening to it, of the explosion that happened in Texas. And the guy did say he's going to give a list of the chemicals that are in there. He's like, I don't think the president actually, I think he answered a person's question and said, I don't see why we can't. There are 9 containers left, according to what I heard, and 8 of them are likely to do the same thing. Now, right now, they're telling everyone that, hey, these chemicals, they're going to burn off. It's going to be safe. It sounds exactly like what happened with Fukushima. Don't worry, it's going to be safe. You know, that's when I start feeling like Ronald Reagan. With my dubious belief in their dubious intent with telling us that stuff. You know, really? So let's see what this guy is saying, because this is very interesting. The department said in a new report that the closure of many plants that once formed the backbone of the grid has raised the risk that consumers might not have reliable electricity. Oh, man. I don't know about you guys, but this fear-mongering has just got to end. Whoever is running our government, these people have just got to stop. It is not long-term thinking for humanity. And maybe that is the point. We have seen Agenda 21, and now it's Agenda 2030, because they couldn't kill us off, all of us off fast enough, because the doggone progressives took a hold of it every once in a while, or some of the rational conservatives said, oh, hey, whoa, slow that train down. But, you know, these guys are murderers. In Texas, look what they're doing. They are not telling people they're not saying that those chemicals might be leaking, not just that plant, not just that one plant that blew up. It's in a lot of places. Take a look. Just look at the energy map, what I did yesterday. I thought I was looking for nuclear power plants, and my eyes went bink. No, these are all different kinds of plants, and they need lots of chemicals. Look where all the chemical storage is. And we're being told it's all fine. Just perfectly fine, folks. Oh, our favorite Senator Joe Manchin, we must get to know him, because Senator Joe is just such a friend of the coal and the nuclear industry. He really has never seen a rich person he didn't love. Released a statement saying that the report reflects the reality that there are real concerns regarding coal in the nation's electric grid. We have to keep that coal going. Oh, I can't do that. Let's move on. I'll talk to you about Hanford, because at Hanford, they are moving along, doing exactly what they say they're doing and not telling us anything. It's the same old story at Hanford. Everything's fine. If you go to their website, they're saying that they're handling it fine. I actually opened up their budget. Let me see if I can get that budget. I downloaded their budget because, I stored it away. It's really long. There it is. Here it is. It's the Hanford budget, and it is, when you download it, it's very interesting how it comes out. They're very unclear about what they're doing. They make everything very complicated. It's, in fact, exactly what Matt Holstrunk said. They give you lots of data so that you can't really understand it, and that's the point. And what they're doing is messing with our lives. They're messing with our children's future. I mean, it's incomprehensible. I have to say I'm a bit shocked, folks. This page is downloading, and it looks like it's copies of handwritten notes. Really? Maybe that's how they submit their budget, on handwritten notes. Wow. Well, look, the phone lines will be open if anybody wants to give me a call. It is 718-717-8106. I think I know how to do that. So if you want to give me a call and have a conversation about any of this, or respond to anything that's been said, or we can talk about that's been discussed over the last few weeks, that would be awesome. I'm going to keep reading. Otherwise, there's going to be dead air. So the hurricane is not really over. And this is really the worst part. There's a really good story that I found, Building a Better World News. And this is written by Dan Taylor on August 30th. The title says, Hurricane Harvey has caused one giant problem. Hurricane Harvey is causing some major health concerns throughout the state of Texas, a problem that could persist long after the storm is gone. The city of Houston has been devastated by a flood of biblical proportions days after Hurricane Harvey roared ashore, but another grave threat is looming. Health officials in the state of Texas are warning about an increased risk of illnesses and hazards because of the floodwaters, and concerns about mosquito-borne illnesses, viral infection, and even carbon monoxide poisoning are rising. The number one concern for health officials is chemicals. Floodwaters can be contaminated with all sorts of nastiness, like chemicals that were sitting in people's garages and tool sheds or big, gigantic storage areas. As a result, officials are advising people to immediately shower and wash their hands if they come in contact with the floodwaters. The government is advising people to toss medications or foods that touch floodwater. Even foods that are wrapped in plastic wrapping can become dangerous due to the floods, thanks to bacteria that lurk in the dirty water. The problem could linger for weeks or even months, and it could make many places totally uninhabitable. If you are in a small enclosed area in an alternate care facility and you have really bad diarrhea, it's going to be hard in these situations to practice proper infection control, said Dr. Amish Adelhija, a senior associate at the Johns Hopkins Center for Health Security, told Reuters. So when I read that story, it is exactly what I was thinking about this morning when they were telling us there's no chemicals coming from that plant. It's just like a barbecue. The guy literally said, it's like no worse than just being in a barbecue. Just don't get it in your eyes and in your lungs. Now, there was, police officers that had to go to the hospital. I mean, it makes you sick. This is not just like, if you get smoke in your lungs when you're standing out in the barbecue, you walk away and you take a deep breath. You're not going to have to go to the hospital. And we have 8 more of these to go. Like, this is going to be serious, and this is a big area. America's going to be in shock, and, and maybe that's why they just militarize the police, because they know they're going to have to. I mean, I don't know. It's kind of a shock. That to me is stunning. And I am dumbfounded at this document that keeps unloading. It's 44 pages, and it's really slow. It looks like it's handwritten, you guys. What was it's called the Richland Compliance Budget Submittal, PDF. 2019 Richland Compliance Budget Submittal. Maybe that's part of their requirements, is to submit their, that's what I'm hoping. They have to submit their original notes, or they decided to, or something. And we'll actually find something other than handwritten notes. Like, it's kind of stunning. Okay, I'm going to keep going. I don't know. How do you guys feel about this? I personally have zero faith that Trader Trump can even handle what's going on. I mean, I don't think he could care less. He's mad because Ivanka's being targeted, and he's mad because Ivanka is. He doesn't care about the chemical pollution. He doesn't care about any of that. He went and gave a thing about tax cuts. The Republicans want to take $1 million out of FEMA. Millions of dollars. It's a big freaking number. I guess I should look that up since I'm talking about it. But really, honestly, and here, you know who actually helps the Republicans all the time is Democratic Senator Joe Manchin. I know about Joe Manchin, and you know what? He is really one of the very purchased. I mean, this issue of sickness within our government is so real, and we are going to see it so badly right now. Like, The wrecking ball cabinet could not have come in at a worse time for Texas. That's for sure. I mean, all those guys that are out there in Texas putting their gas in, FEMA said, yeah, this is what happens. They'll say, yeah, go out and help with the rescues and turn your receipts in. Try to get the money. How long it's going to take with nobody in the administration pushing the papers and doing the work. With trillions and billions of dollars being shoveled around and non-dollars. We don't even, and that's the other thing. Like, they did bring in the king of bankruptcy guy to, boom, wreck the entire United States government. The king of bankruptcy is going to oversee the collapse in October. Get ready. I hope you guys are braced for it, because I think we're going to go down. I think it's like, boom. So, or maybe Trader Trump will just bring us right into war. Maybe he'll think maybe that's his idea. What we need is a war, and I'll just drop a bunch of bombs or do it, on the sly. I wonder if the president could actually do that. That makes me really wonder if the president could actually drop a bunch of bombs on somebody in the middle of the night, make a decision without all the people around him. That's a frightening thing. But I don't put it past him at all, to be honest, because he's a true abuser. Like, he wants people to like him. This is the thing. He only cares about people liking him because he's a complete narcissist. He is the perfect picture of narcissistic personality disorder. And it's battery, smooth over. And you know what? To people, I know that there are people in this audience that have probably battered their wives or battered their children or battered their husbands. And, I'm about forgiveness. And I think that people can change their behavior. It's not a good idea. I personally have ripped up a radio with my bare hands. I completely understand rage. And it did scare my kids, and I did go to therapy right after that. I'm like, this can't be good, ripping a radio apart with your own bare hands. But we can't have this as president of the United States. He's got way too much power. He's way too whacked, man. And he's not stable. The economy is not doing better. Spiking in the hopes, but what's he do? He's ditching everybody's confidence. He has our standing in the world is worse than ever. Our money is worthless. This thing about, I have no faith that this government, the way it is set up right now, A, cares, or B, won't let those people just linger and linger and linger and linger, except in the white neighborhoods. The white neighborhoods will get help. When my friend Mary, who lives in Louisiana, went through Hurricane Katrina, a tree fell on her house and boom, she got helped right away. There was no having to do paperwork, all the rigmarole that they made a lot of people go through in her own town. She was telling me stories, and it really is because she's white, and she knew it. Let's just get clear. Not that she agrees with that or participates with it, but she's poor. She was very grateful it helped. And that's, I guess, the issue of what white privilege is about in America. And if anybody wants to call me and talk about this, it's 718-717-8106. And it is not the radio show phone number, although I don't know if that would work. I think Jules would have to turn it on. But my phone number is 718-717-8106. So I'm going to keep looking. I did pull up some more things about nuclear stuff because I know that's what you come here to listen about. And I would strongly suggest that everybody, if you want to hear about this Texas stuff, listen to Libby Halevi's interviews. This weekend, she's going to be talking to people about the nuclear power plants, and I'm sure it'll spill into the chemical plants down there. But it was the day before the explosion, so it's going to be interesting. I can't wait. I love Libby Halevi's show, by the way. Big fan, and I'm a big fan of Jules' show. Okay, here's this. Gears of Biz. This is an online newspaper that I found. Here's how the Department of Energy is censoring science that doesn't support its message, by Victoria Ritter on August 27, 2017. I'm going to grab a bit of water before I start. Thanks. Okay. Fears about what will become of scientific investigation under the Trump administration is nothing new. Amen. But a report from the Department of Energy yesterday seemingly confirmed those fears, followed by some full-blown climate change censorship. I don't know if I like that word, climate change, but whatever. The DOE report on our country's electrical grid conveniently came to exactly the same conclusion you'd expect to hear from the Trump administration. We need coal and nuclear plants to keep the grid stable, despite advances in renewable and gas and natural gas. However, a draft report leaked weeks ago by career DOE employees before the more politically inclined ones could get their fingerprints all over it tells a much different story. A comparison between the draft of the report and the final version shows that some coal and nuclear friendly language was added in places, despite not really being supported by the findings still published in the final report. We can only wonder if more drastic changes would have been made had the draft not been leaked. The draft version found that cheap natural gas was the main cause of decline in coal plants, rather than renewable energy sources and government subsidies that foster their growth. The final report pointed vaguely blamed, I think that's what she meant. The final report pointedly vaguely blamed those subsidies for tipping the energy market too much in one direction. Similarly, recommendations were added that coal and nuclear plants be shored up in order to save power grid reliability, while the report's actual data showed no reliability problem in need of solving. Really, the report found there's no energy-based need to save coal and nuclear plants, and added political thinking skirted the one real issue to keep nuclear plants around: climate change. That comes as no surprise considering Trump's past claims that climate change is made up, as well as reports that the current DOE has banned the term altogether for political reasons. So this is interesting, and I can't wait to talk about this. In case there were any doubts about that, a DOE grant recipient just yesterday posted an email that asked her to remove the term climate change and global warming from the abstract, basically the summary of the report. And in the future reports this is scientific censorship and it cannot be tolerated. And that was a Twitter report by Robert McNeese on August 25th, 2017. Just like with the grid report, they're trying to control the public's understanding of scientific findings by changing how they're portrayed if they can't change the actual science. Keeping things on message is nothing new in politics, but climate change is not an issue we can afford to downplay for political points. So what was interesting about this story to me was that the implication is that nuclear power plants, quote, are good for global warming. That I didn't really get this. The report found there's no energy base to save coal and nuclear plants and added political talking points, skirted the one real issue to keep nuclear power around: climate change. So that's her saying that there is really one reason to keep nuclear around. This is an interesting way, this story. This is what I call the Bill McKibben's version of environmental crisis. I don't know what you want to call it, climate change or environmental crisis. I don't know if the climate is changing, but what's really changing is we're destroying our planet. It's an environmental crisis. It's not climate change is happening. It's happening because we're destroying our environment. And I think that's what drives me to do this radio show. To be honest, you guys are my listeners. You can hear my thinking about all this stuff. This is why sometimes I feel like it's hard to get through the concept, the magnitude of just how much destruction has really happened in every segment of our country. Really, honestly, if you look at a map of our country, and you just take the map of the nuclear power plants, and then you get another map of where all the fuse wrap sites are, and you overlay that on top of it, and then you get the Superfund site map, and you overlay that on top of it, and then you put nuclear processing facilities and chemical processing plants, and put that on top of it. And you don't even have to look at the bomb fallout from the nuclear testing in the Midwest. I mean, actually, interestingly enough, if you look at the map, once you add that bomb testing, the whole entire United States is blanketed with nuclear pollution. I mean, they built around the bomb testing because they couldn't go in there because it's too toxic. That's just kind of what I was thinking when I was looking at I did this exercise one night where I just overlaid them. I printed them out, to be honest. And you just overlay them, and it's like, wow, we are super screwed. We are in an environmental crisis like we have never seen. And unfortunately, Katrina was just the beginning, and Houston is really going to be very devastated. Houston is not going to recover from this, and our country is going to be in, this is the thing. Maybe this will be the breaking point. Maybe this is what our country will need for us to finally come together and say, you know what? We're going to have to really fix this and figure this out. Are we going to be a country based on our Constitution? Are we going to get our rights back? Or are we going to just devolve into some type of an oligarchy where we have police control and we all get to live our lives as long as we do exactly what we're told? I think that's where it's going to come down to, because we are going to have environmental catastrophes. There's going to be, the guy said they expect all 8 of those other containers to blow up or to have some type of an explosion. 8 more at one facility. Now, I wonder how many other facilities there are. I mean, this is an untold, and let's don't even talk about the nuclear power plant that they did not shut down and they kept like playing chicken with the whole time. Completely insane. It's a completely sane thing that does not happen. So let's talk about this story, what the government really wants to do. Since we just talked to you about, okay, this is what it's going to really hurt, this is how it's going to really hurt, and how the government is now censoring its information. Not only is it censoring its information, they want the rulesies. So this is a report, the Independent Herald, from Staff and Wire Reports. Washington. U.S. Energy Department officials said Wednesday the government should make it easier and cheaper to operate power plants, including coal and nuclear plants, to strengthen the nation's electric grid. Right. This is so unbelievable. Okay, I'm going to read this. The department said in a new report the closure of many plants that once formed the backbone of the grid has raised the risk that consumers might not have reliable electricity. In a letter accompanying the report, Energy Secretary Rick Perry said the U.S. is fortunate to have many sources of energy and should use them all. In a key recommendation, the report urges the federal government to make licensing and permitting faster and cheaper for facilities such as nuclear, hydro, coal, advanced generation technologies, and transmission. Advanced generation technologies. What's that? U.S. Senator Joe Manchin, Democrat of West Virginia, released a statement saying that the report reflects the reality that there are areas of real concern regarding coal in the nation's electric grid. I am very pleased, here he goes again, I am very pleased that Secretary Perry and the Department of Energy released this report examining the potential for reliability and resiliency issues within our electricity supply and delivery system, Manchin said. I urge my colleagues to recognize that without coal, our country will face a reliability crisis in the very near term. That's because you block other sources of electricity from being utilized widespread, Senator Manchin. He is. This is, in fact, like him. These guys are all traitors. These guys are like maybe that's why I shouldn't be shocked at Traitor Trump. He's just out in the open. He's like, gives everybody the finger. He does not care. Really. Manchin says this study recognizes the reality that today's electric markets and market rules have tilted the playing field against traditional baseload generation, particularly nuclear and coal-fired power plants. That's right. That's exactly right, sir. That's exactly what we want to have done because they're killing our planet and our people. These plants deliver 24/7 reliable, resilient power across our nation, but they are increasingly disadvantaged due to a number of factors, he said. Coal has long been the workhorse of the electric sector and the EIA projects that will continue to be leaned on for years to come, alongside natural gas, nuclear, and renewable resources. As Americans, we are increasingly reliant on electricity to grow our economy and maintain our way of life. It is imperative that we stay vigilant in ensuring our baseload power plants are able to compete in order to truly achieve the all-of-the-above energy mix. And I am not for the all-of-the-above energy mix. I think we need to not have nuclear 100%, and we could actually do without coal. We need to just... Hey, Larry Woods has been on this show a couple of times. They have answers. Shaziz has answers. There's answers. People could just have electricity. We don't need to have... we could even use, that's why I like Larry's idea, because we could use the grid that we have that they say we need. That's a good way to ease people off. But reality is, if you look at the whole picture of how these ideas are, it's obvious we don't need this system. It's antiquated. It's like insisting everybody drive a horse and buggy while, everyone else is going, in cars that go 100 miles an hour or fly around. Back to this story, folks. Environmentalists and advocates for renewable energy have been bracing for the report since drafts leaked in the press in recent weeks. Some observers think the Energy Department will use the study to argue that fossil fuel plants are needed to make the grid reliable and that policies promoting renewables should be cut back. Jim Marston, an official with the Environmental Defense Fund, said the Energy Department was twisting facts to reach a predetermined conclusion in favor of coal. Just like you, Mr. Marston, like you do in favor of nuclear. He said the agency ignored evidence from California that solar energy is reliable. That is true, just like you have ignored the fact that nuclear energy is not reliable. On the other side, Paul Bailey, CEO of the American Coalition for Clean Coal Electricity, praised the report. One of the biggest challenges is how to preserve the nation's coal fleet so it can continue supporting a reliable and resilient electricity grid, Bailey said. The U.S. energy market has undergone dramatic changes in the past 15 years. About 15% of the generating capacity that existed in 2002 has been retired, including many coal-fired plants that were replaced by plants burning cheaper natural gas. Natural gas replaced coal as the leading fuel for electricity in 2016, but coal retook the top spot by a thin margin in the first quarter of 2017. And after this flood, it's going to stay there because all over Texas, these refineries, this place is just going to be one big fracking mess, if you know what I mean. Wind and solar power have also undermined coal and nuclear, the Energy Department report concluded. Helped by federal tax credits and favorable state policies, the department said, renewables have lower variable costs than so-called baseload plants, the coal and nuclear behemoths that steadily churned out electricity at high rates for many years. The Energy Department report also heaped blame on environmental regulations. It said the largest number of coal plant retirements occurred in 2015, the deadline for operators to install new pollution control equipment. Perry ordered the report back in April, saying a review of electricity reliability and market was overdue. In a cover letter to the 187-page report, Perry said, we must utilize the most effective combination of energy sources with an all-of-the-above approach to achieve long-term reliable American energy security, unquote. He said that the Trump administration would pursue policies that promote reliable and affordable electricity from diverse energy sources. Right. Other coal executives have urged similar government intervention to save their businesses. In a speech last week, the CEO of Peabody Energy Corp., the nation's largest coal producer, also said a 2-year memorandum on a coal plant closure was needed. In West Virginia, Governor Jim Justice claimed he developed a plan to put tens of thousands of coal miners back to work in West Virginia and across Appalachia, while providing a critical addition to the national security and the stabilization of the eastern seaboard's power grid. Justice, whose family has interest in several coal mines in the region, said then that he has already met with Trump and has presented his plan that calls for a $4.5 billion annually in federal funding to power companies that burn steam coal mined in northern and central Appalachia. It calls for the federal funding to pay for the eastern power plants $15 for each ton of thermal load they buy from the central or northern Appalachia region, which includes such states as West Virginia, Ohio, and Pennsylvania. Put you guys on mute when I take a bit of water. So I'm going to finish this article up. President Donald Trump has vowed to revive the coal industry. The administration has rolled back some energy regulations, and Trump announced he will withdraw the U.S. from the Paris Accord on controlling climate change. However, the Trump administration rejected a coal industry push to issue a rarely used emergency order protecting fire-cooled power plants. That's good. The Energy Department decided the order is unnecessary, and the White House agreed, according to the AP. So this is really interesting, what is going on with all of this. They are moving through with the same old, and let's just pretend like none of it really matters, huh? So let's take a look at the nuclear alerts. How about that, folks? It's 8:37. If anybody wants to give me a call, it is 718-717-8106. That's our phone number here. 8 to 9 a.m. You're listening to Lonnie Clark with the Age of Fission radio show. And thank you for listening, by the way. So nuclear report for 8:30 to 8/31/2017. This is on the NRC website, event notification page for August 31st, 2017. What do we have here? It's a non-emergency medical event misadministration. They gave somebody too much or too little. Patient was injected with 176.1 microcures of RA-223. Man, in parentheses it says Xofigo, Xofigo, instead of 108. Oops, a 62% greater than the prescribed dose. Bye-bye. And you know what? Probably in the insurance clause, he can't do jack about it. There's nothing that's going to happen. Comanche Peak, Texas, just one of those ones in Texas that we were talking about yesterday. Non-emergency, unplanned loss of emergency response equipment. At 2:10 CDT on August 30th, Comanche Peak Nuclear Power Plant 2 experienced an unplanned loss of the plant computer system. The loss of the Unit 2 PCS resulted in the loss of emergency assessment capability to the CPNPP Technical Support Center and the Emergency Operating Facility for greater than 60 minutes. As of 5:30, the Unit 2 PCS has been restored. Assessment capability has been verified, and it will be available to the Technical Support Center, TCS, and OEF, which is Emergency Operating Facility. So don't worry, they got it all back. It's all going, and the power is still on at 100% there. Okay, defects and noncompliance, and this was this was in Mount Vernon, Illinois, Nutherm, Nutherm, Nutherm International, defects and noncompliance. Relay failure, Nutherm model DC, does not have sufficient information to determine if the subject condition would has or has created a substantial safety hazard or would have created a technical specification limit violation. Really? On 8/28, Cooper notified the NRC of a reportable condition under 10 CFR Part 21. An Allen Bradley relay model 700 DC exhibited failure after 133 hours of service. So we're being told that something doesn't work again, figures. Let's see, what's the next one today? Zion Solutions, Illinois, offsite notification, 8:30. Now, Zion, independent spent fuel storage installation. Okay, licensee is Zion Solution. At approximately 1824, the independent spent fuel storage installation was notified of a diesel spill of approximately 70 gallons onto gravel. The spill was originated as a 500-gallon tank was being transported and fell from the forks. So right out there, they spilled 70 gallons of gas, I guess. Well, nothing to worry about here, nothing to look. Move along, folks. We will. Let's go to August 30th. See what's been going on. Nuclear Crane Inc. in Illinois. Defects and noncompliance. From what? Defective safety valves. Doesn't this make you guys feel good knowing that we have this they report everything that breaks? A power reactor in Grand Gulf, Mississippi. Technical specification required a shutdown. And why was that? On August 22nd, Grand Gulf Nuclear Station entered technical specification conditions for 3 limiting conditions for operations not met due to residual heat removal being declared inoperable. The station has made a decision to shut down the plant based on the results of troubleshooting performed on the RHRA pump. The restoration of RHRA pump will not be completed prior to the end of 7-day LCO time limitation. Well, gee whiz, nice of them to find something wrong right before the storm hit. Thank goodness they did at least. So let's go back over here. I don't know if you guys want to keep hearing that, but I don't. And I'm going to go see what is going on. Yeah, this is the issue what's going on right now it's Fukushima all over again. I mean, this is, there's actually, I don't know, I was looking for this, but it's kind of hard to find. The death rates. I saw an article, really quickly, and I didn't verify it, so I didn't want to read it because I didn't have time to verify it, but it said that there was a hotel in Japan where it's a crematorium where you go in and they're having a hard time keeping up with the death rate, the increasing death rate in Japan. So a hotel opened up. It sounded like it's an odd story. It's a weird business to open up if it's real. But, we are seeing lots more deaths, and we are going to start seeing it. And this thing in Texas is going to be devastating. And I think people will not be able to live there. They're going to go back home and realize they can't live in a lot of these places because it's going to be contaminated. Oh, let's look up the mass animal deaths and see what's happened to poor little creatures. Because they're not actually keeping track of human deaths, those kinds of things. There's no epidemiological studies. It's really, they're not keeping track. Thank goodness for this link. And this is endtimesprophecy.org. And there's a hyphen in between each one of those words. So August 23rd, this was August 23rd. 329 known mass death events in 68 countries or territories. 2017, 329 so far. Hundreds, maybe thousands of dead snow geese washed up in Cambridge Bay, Canada. Hundreds of dead fish washed in Guaymas, Mexico. 200,000 birds killed due to avian flu in Pampanga, Philippines. Avian flu, it's always avian flu or due to disease. 4,000 birds killed in Kalmar County, Sweden. This is on August 21st now. August 20th, 2,474 cattle have died for unknown reasons in Chihuahua, Bolivia. Wow. August 18th, dozens of dead dolphins and turtles are washing up on the Gulf Coast in America. Yeah, well, we're going to start seeing lots more of that. That's going to be really sad. That's August 18th. Wait till this storm clears. And because out there in that storm, let's hope many of those oil facilities and all the chemical plants and all the stuff they have out there in the Gulf, let's hope they batten those hatches tight, tight, tight. Thousands of dead fish washing ashore in Tampa Bay coast in America. Thousands of dead fish. Let's take a look at that at Tampa Bay. See what they say is thousands. Tens of tons of dead fish in a fish farm in Cianjur, Indonesia. 2 million cattle dead due to devastating drought in Ethiopia. That was on August 13th. 2 million cattle. That's a big number. August 10th, 90 tons of fish have died in farms in Vang Tao, Vietnam. Wow. We are not actually going to see the climate change. We are living it. This is it. This is really sad. They are big fish. I pulled up this story on, but they don't show, interestingly enough, they don't show pictures along the shore. They just show pictures of a few fish. So here we go again, being told what we can see, what we can't see. I'm going to go back here. I think I read this on August 9th, the 12th right whale found dead in Massachusetts. Yeah, I remember reading that. And the mass bee death and the other things that are happening to our planet. And we have lost the coral reef. It's not climate change, it's an environmental crisis from allowing industry to destroy our environment for greed. It's like really seriously, we have not had any accountability, and these guys want less regulation. They want the government to regulate less on operating power plants. These same people actually probably really want to have that Nuclear Waste Amendment Act, 2017. They probably believe that it's a good idea to relieve the government of this responsibility. Just like they think it's a good idea to look, we don't need to give FEMA money. It's going to be the community is going to have to pay for this. And if they want it, they have to come up with the funds. What they don't understand is it's not the community really paying for it right now. Communities don't have the money to pay for it when you're devastated, when there's no money to be made, because the community is devastated. It's a negative feedback loop. This is why we created these agencies, for a level of compassion. I mean, we as Americans need to really start asking some questions of what are our values? For real, what are our values? Because our Constitution gives us a framework that allows us to grow. But when we have something like the Unpatriot Act on the books, when we have a CIA which is unfunded, unfettered, and unaccountable funding, it's not unfunded, it's unaccountable funding. The CIA can do whatever they want. They are terrorizing people's lives right this second. I've interviewed people. I mean, Hope Castor's been on here. She's talked about how she has been lifelong tortured. I mean, they pick on somebody and boom, that's it. I mean, I've heard stories and I've run into people who've told me stories about things that have happened to them, and there is no way they want to talk about it on the radio. Now, who's funding that? Probably somewhere pretty deep. So, I mean, this whole thing with the nuclear And this is partly why people don't want to talk about it, because they don't want to go against it, because they know intuitively it's mega big government. Like, they're not giving this one up. But here they are. They want to deregulate the nuclear waste. They want the government to ease up and allow them to do whatever they want, while the planet is obviously having at least a heart attack. The planet is having something going wrong with it. It's not normal. I mean, what they're doing in Texas with those, and they're not even talking about the smaller facilities that have had issues. This company, Arvada or Arcavada or something like that, it's a big company. There are 9 containers, and 8 of them they know will explode. That's what the guy said. They're expecting that. And as long as everybody stays away while they're exploding and let it dissipate, everything will be fine. Because don't worry, the chemical's not going to get in the water. But even though it exploded or it's blowing off chemical fire, it's just going to blow off in the air. And that's the nature of the chemicals, or so they say. I mean, we're expected to just, shake our head and shuffle along. I mean, that's what they wanted us to do. And that's what I did when Fukushima happened. I mean, the boss man came out and said, hey, we're fine. And I'm like, ooh, I'm so glad Barack Obama was president. Oh, my God. Oh, how we grow in 5 or 6 years, eh, folks? I mean, I have to say, since the 2000 election, that's really when I started growing up as an adult. When all that went down and the Unpatriot Act happened and all that stuff. And I was like, say what? We have about 10 minutes left. If anybody wants to give me a call, we have a few minutes. It's 718-717-8106. And if you don't call me, I'm just going to keep on reading. So here is a story from Epoch Times. Nuclear waste could be dumped in the ocean. Regulators argue that release of Fukushima and other nuclear plants is safe. By Tara McIsaac of Epoch Times, August 3rd, 2017. That was the day my grandson was born. His name is Andrew Neal. Sweet little baby. Healthy. Born at home, 9 pounds, 2 ounces. 21 inches long. Okay. And this is going to be his future, unfortunately, you guys. Like, this is the thing for all of us. We are living in the age of fission. I don't know. Let's see how long this article is. I don't know if I'll be able to get through all of it, but I am going to give it an all-American try. We have about 8 minutes. Tokyo Electric Power Company, the operator of Fukushima Daiichi nuclear plant, says it may dump as much as 770 cubic meters of water contaminated with radioactive tritium into the Pacific Ocean as part of its cleanup efforts following the 2011 tsunami. The announcement has stirred up controversy, yet other lesser-known nuclear facilities around the world have already been releasing tritium into the ocean and the environment. After dilution, tritium is released into the ocean, not only from the nuclear power plants, but also from the reprocessing plants in the world already, said nuclear engineer Tadahiro Katsuchi of Meiji University via email. It's hard to remove tritium from nuclear plant effluent. Not hard, impossible. It is a radioactive isotope of hydrogen, and like hydrogen, it can bond with oxygen to make water, tritiated water. Because it is part of the water, it isn't easy to remove as other contaminants. No kidding. Alternatives to dumping this tritiated water in the ocean include storing it underground or vaporizing it into the atmosphere. But these alternatives have no full-scale research to back them up, nor are they typical with this much tritiated water, said Katsuda. The costs of these alternatives would be too great, adding to an already phenomenally expensive cleanup, he said. The Japanese government estimated last year that the disaster-related costs will reach $188 billion following the 2011 earthquake and tsunami that caused the meltdown of 3 reactors at the power station. Because it is so difficult to remove tritium, Most nuclear plants release tritiated water into the environment. These releases are controlled, as it would be in Fukushima, to allow the tritium to diffuse in the environment gradually in concentrations considered safe. In the United States, the EPA sets a maximum contaminant level for tritium at 20,000 picocuries per liter. To put that number in perspective, the amount of radiation a person would be exposed to drinking water contaminated for this level for 1 year is comparable to the radiation exposure of a 3 or 4 hour flight. What? So per liter, that's 1 liter. A person who drinks water contaminated 3 times this much with this much tritium has an estimated chance of 1 in 1.25 million chance of getting fatal cancer as a result, according to the U.S. Nuclear Regulatory Commission. Tritium is also considered a relatively harmless radioactive substance. The World Health Organization sets the maximum concentration level at about 13 times higher than the EPA's recommendation. Our bodies are constantly exposed to radiation, the majority of which comes from natural sources, not anymore, such as cosmic radiation from the sun and the stars. Oh my gosh. That makes me really spit nails, I do have to say. We have just a few minutes left. I don't think I'll get to the end of it, but I'm going to read a little bit more. Other more hazardous radioactive substances such as strontium and cesium have been removed from the Fukushima wastewater, but the filtration used to remove these substances is not 100% effective, explained Ken Buesler, a senior scientist at Woodhull Oceanographic Institute, who has closely followed the cleanup and the disaster's impact at the ocean. This was the same guy who early on said, don't worry, there's no radiation. It's not going to harm you. This stuff isn't going to kill you. Keep eating fish. Don't worry about it. He kind of makes me mad, to be honest. Like, I wish I could talk to him directly, because from what I read, from what he has said, from what I read, and now he's like, oh yeah, it's really bad. We have a minute left. I want to thank you guys for listening. I want to thank KEPW for being our partner, and we will have on Patty Amino's interview on Monday. And I actually have another interview with Patty Amino that I think I'm going to play shortly thereafter, that I'm going to edit both of them. And because she had a lot to say. She was kind of quite upset about all the turn of events that have gone on. Just she's given her life for this country so much. And all the dissension, all the chaos, all the the bitterness, that's not what our soldiers put their lives on the line. That's not why people go into the military. It's for us to become a united nation. And it really is time for us to change our attitudes. So she spoke quite a bit, quite fervently, and had a lot of passion. She called and wanted to do an interview with me. So we did a couple of interviews. So I will play her interview on Monday. Barry will be with you guys tomorrow, Barry Prince, and we appreciate you listening to our station. If you can contribute, please do. Every little dollar helps. Put your courage feet on. Let's take some action. It is up to us, and it's our future. It's what we make of it. So our thoughts are things. Talk to you guys, I guess, on Tuesday. Take care.